The heat clicks off, but the air keeps pouring out of the vents anyway. Or you walk past a vent in the middle of the afternoon, no heat running at all, and the blower is just going and going like it forgot how to stop. Maybe it has been doing this for days. And the longer it runs, the more you start doing the math on your electric bill and wondering what just broke. Let me take the scary part off your shoulders first. A furnace fan that will not stop is almost never a broken fan. When a blower motor actually fails, it does the opposite. It stops cold. So if yours is running too much, the motor itself is fine. Something is telling it to keep going, and your whole job is to figure out what. One question sorts this entire problem in about 10 seconds. Does the fan ever stop at all? Or does it only refuse to stop after the heat finishes? Those are two completely different problems hiding under the same search. If it runs around the clock and never quits, even when no heat is on, something is sending the blower a constant command to run. If it only drags on after the burner shut off, you are usually looking at a safety system or a worn-out part. Keep that question in your head because every cause below sorts into one of those two buckets. Before we touch anything, let me talk you out of fixing something that is not broken. Two normal behaviors get mistaken for a fault all the time. The first is the fan-off delay. Every modern furnace keeps the blower running for 1 to 3 minutes after the burner shut off, on purpose. There is still a pile of heat sitting in the metal heat exchanger when the flame dies, so the furnace runs the fan a little longer to push that last bit of warm air into your house instead of wasting it up the flue. That is not a malfunction, that is the furnace being smart with your money. If your fan runs for a minute or two after the heat stops and then quits on its own, walk away, nothing is wrong. The second is a system that was deliberately set to circulate air. A lot of newer furnaces have a variable speed blower built to idle on a low, quiet setting all the time, moving air around the house even when there is no heat call. If it got set up that way, the fan running nonstop is exactly what it is supposed to do. Which brings us to the most common cause on the whole list. The first thing to check before anything else is the thermostat. Look on it for a fan setting, a little switch, or a menu option that toggles between on and auto. If it is sitting on, that is your answer right there. On means run the fan all the time, no matter what the furnace is doing. Auto means only run the fan when there is actually heat or cooling to move. Switch it to auto and the around-the-clock running stops. This trips people up every single fall. Someone sets the fan to on during the summer to keep air moving on a hot day, totally reasonable, and then forgets all about it. 3 months later, the furnace fires up for the season and they panic because the blower never shuts up. I have watched people chase this for a week, pulling vents and reading manuals, when the fix was a switch on the wall they walk past 40 times a day. So check that switch first. It costs nothing and it solves more of these than every other cause on this list combined. If the thermostat is already on auto and the fan still will not quit, move to the second cause, the air filter. This is the one that should actually bug you, and not because the fan is annoying. A clogged filter chokes off the air the furnace needs to breathe. With the airflow strangled, the heat has nowhere to go, so the heat exchanger climbs too hot. When it crosses a safety limit, a switch shuts the burners off to keep the furnace from cooking itself, but it leaves the blower running flat out to cool that hot metal down. So you get this ugly pattern. The furnace heats, overheats, drops the flame, runs the fan hard, cools off, fires again over and over, and the blower seems like it is always going. Here is what matters. A fan that runs too much is the least scary furnace problem there is, but overheating is not, and a filter so packed it is tripping the high limit is a real warning, not a nuisance. So pull the filter out and look at it. If it is gray and matted, replace it. Open any vents you have closed around the house and give the furnace half an hour to cool down. Filters run $10 to $30. Check yours monthly during heating season and swap it every 1 to 3 months. The third cause lives on older furnaces, the combination fan and limit control. If your furnace has some years on it, there is a good chance it uses one of these, a white rectangular box mounted on the supply plenum, which is the big sheet metal duct coming off the top of the furnace. That control decides when the blower kicks on and off based on temperature. Two things on it can cause a fan that will not stop. First, many of them have a small manual override button you can push in to force the fan to run continuously. So if somebody pushed it in, pull it back out. Second, the control has little temperature pointers on the dial, and the fan off setting should sit around 90 to 95 degrees. If that pointer got bumped too high, the fan never reaches its shutoff temperature and just keeps going, so move it back down to 90. If you release the override and set the dial correctly and the fan still runs nonstop, the part itself is worn out. The bimetal strip inside that senses the temperature gets tired with age and stops opening the circuit. A new fan and limit control runs about $40 to $150 installed, which makes it a common and cheap repair. Now we get into the wiring, the fourth cause, and this is the one that fits a fan running around the clock that never stops at all. The blower has its own wire running from the thermostat down to the furnace called the G wire. Its entire job is to carry the signal that says run the fan. If that wire gets pinched, flattened under a staple, rubbed bare against metal, or chewed by a mouse, it can touch the power wire and put a constant signal on the fan telling it to run forever, even with the thermostat set to auto. There is a clean way to test this. Down at the furnace, find the G wire on the control board and disconnect it. If the fan stops, the command is coming from upstairs, either the wiring or the thermostat, and not from a stuck furnace. If the fan keeps running even with that wire off, the problem is inside the furnace itself, and we will get there in a second. Repairing a damaged thermostat wire can be free if you simply reroute it, or up to $150 if a pro has to rerun the whole cable. The fifth cause is the thermostat itself going bad. The fan switch inside it can fail and hold the signal on even when the display says auto. The test for this is almost too easy. Gently pull the thermostat body off its wall plate so it separates from the wiring. If the blower stops, the thermostat is your culprit, and a new one, anywhere from $20 for a basic model to a couple hundred for a smart one, puts an end to it. If the fan keeps running with the thermostat physically off the wall, the thermostat is innocent and the trouble is somewhere downstream. That brings us inside the furnace, the sixth cause, the control board. A relay on that board switches the high voltage power to the blower motor on and off. Those relay contacts can weld themselves shut, and when they do, the motor gets power constantly, no matter what the thermostat or the wiring is doing. This is the cause that shows up after you have already disconnected the G wire and pulled the thermostat, and the fan still will not stop. A technician confirms it by checking that there is no signal on the control terminals but full power sitting on the motor anyway. A new control board runs about $150 to $600, and this one is pro territory because you are working with line voltage that can hurt you. The seventh cause only applies to higher-end furnaces with a variable speed blower motor, the kind sometimes called an ECM motor. These have their own little computer, a control module bolted right onto the motor. If that module fails, it can run the motor with no signal coming in at all. The symptom looks just like a welded relay. The motor runs with nothing telling it to, but the diagnosis and the fix are different and need special testers. This is the most expensive item on the list, usually $300 to $900 for the module or the motor, and it is squarely a job for a pro. There is one more thing I will not let you skip, because it crosses from nuisance into safety. If the fan will not stop and you also smell something burning, or the furnace is firing and shutting off over and over on its limit, treat that as overheating, not as a fan that is merely getting on your nerves. Change the filter and open the vents first because that fixes the airflow version of this, but if it keeps tripping after that, shut the furnace off and call a pro. Never jam a screwdriver under a limit switch or jumper it to force the heat to stay on, because that switch is the only thing standing between a too hot heat exchanger and a fire. And if you ever find a tripped flame rollout switch, that little reset button out near the burners, do not just push it and move on. That one trips because flames rolled out where they never should, and it earns a real inspection for a cracked heat exchanger and a carbon monoxide check before anyone resets a thing. So look at where all of this leaves you. A furnace fan that runs too much is honestly the gentlest way a furnace can act up in the dead of winter. It almost never means you are about to be left cold, and most of the time the cause is sitting right at the top of this list, a switch in the wrong position or a filter you can grab at the grocery store. The expensive failures are real, but they are rare, and they are the last stop, not the first. Start at the top, Work your way down, and there is a genuine chance you put this to rest without paying anyone a dime. Anything you might need along the way, a fresh filter, a replacement thermostat, a new fan, and limit control, is linked for you down in the description.